back. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for being on the show today. We have got a special broadcast for you all today. Hey, this is a Juice Radio and Talk Show, and we are excited about having this panelist here today. We're going to discuss this very important topic with everyone today, and we want you to get the information that needed because these topics are important. Now, a lot of you may not be aware of a lot of these things that are going on, or you may have seen them, but you may have chose to ignore them or pass by them or not have the full information that you need. Today, we're going to hope that we can get some of this information and knowledge to you. Today, we are talking about a sensitive topic, but a necessary topic. And that topic is domestic violence and mental abuse. I've got some great ladies here that have joined me today. I've got the wonderful Tammy Lewis, who's our beautiful, beautiful psychiatrist. What's your title, Tammy?
I am a licensed professional counselor and a certified advanced alcohol and drug counselor.
There you go. And then we've got the beautiful Sabrina Kirkland, and she is with the project My Name is Me. Wonderful project. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what your goals and things that you do. I just say you're an advocate for everybody.
That sums it up. I am an advocate. So our organization and it's our ministry is called My Name is Me, and My Name is Me is an advocacy. We advocate against human trafficking, teen dating violence, which is domestic violence, bullying, and child abuse. But the child abuse and the bullying is kind of like in the same family, but we offer training around those subject matters.
Okay. All right. Great. And then we've got the beautiful Condoleezza Wrighty. She's actually in studio today at our next camera here. Condoleezza is really an amazing person. She's also an advocate. She tries to get us to the church side. And she has a story that she'd like to share herself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Condoleezza.
Yes, well, I'm Condoleezza Henry, and I'm the pastor of End Time Ministries. I also do advocacy, counseling. I have been a victim of verbal and mental and physical abuse at the hands of my first husband. So I know firsthand the mentality of the victim and the mentality of the abuser.
Wow.
And so, but I also know that there's a day of deliverance too.
There you go.
And so I'm just excited about it.
Well, I think that is wonderful. Now, ladies, were you able to hear Condoleezza okay?
Yes.
All right, great. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go ahead and let's jump into this. Again, the reason why I wanted to have this conversation, it's been a topic I've been wanting to discuss for quite some time now, and I wanted to get the perfect panelists together as we're doing today. And then it was elevated to an urgency of need to do this because of a recent video that I posted on my personal page on Facebook. My husband and I witnessed an actual attack and fight, we'll say, in the parking lot of a grocery store of two individuals, a guy and a girl, young couple, I'll say, or two young people who had a physical altercation. And this struck a nerve in me to say, we need to get a panelist together and let's discuss it, because we need to know what is our position in things like this. What are we supposed to do, the viewers, the people who are witnessing this? And should we be doing anything? And what is it that we should be doing, and the right way and not the wrong way to do things like this? And also, I want to touch a little bit on the things that people may be mentally thinking during this process, because so many people are easy to say, he should get out, or she should get out, or they should leave, or he should leave. But it's not always as easy as it may seem.
That's right.
Okay. I'd like to start with you, Tammy. And because you do so much of the counseling with a lot of the abused people, what are some of the signs that you would say if someone was dating someone, or first signals that you say that people should look out for to maybe determine if this person may be someone who is going to be violent or has been violent or have suffered some traumatic problems in their past?
You mean from the abuser part or from the person being abused?
See, that's why she's on the panel. That's why. Now, that's the answer I wanted to get, because so many people want to quickly jump to the abused person first. Right. And we oftentimes don't look at the other one. So, Tammy, you take whichever one you like first.
Well, usually there, you see a lot of insecurity, usually on both sides. Both sides are insecure, a lot of insecurity and enormous jealousy. And then you see that isolation. And some folks will think, oh, he's just jealous. That's so cute. There's nothing cute about jealousy.
You better tell them.
Nothing cute about being jealous. And that jealousy usually leads to isolation. And it can just escalate from there. And they just become more and more detached from friends, family, anybody around. And then that person, it just kind of escalates from there. And I'm just thinking, I see a lot of that, particularly with my folks who have substance use disorders. It's a lot of abuse in those relationships when they're coming out of them or going, trying to get out of them in the history, particularly with the women, that they have these abusive relationships and they can't really see the pattern until it's pointed out. I say to a lot of folks, they can't change a pattern until they know they have one. And so a lot of folks don't see the pattern until it's actually pointed out to them.
And when it's time to point it out to the individual, how oftentimes do they actually see it once you point it out and then recognize what it is and then accept the willingness to make the change?
That takes time. That really does take time, because it's not just like you say, you see it in this relationship, but let's go back and look at other relationships, and maybe not just with intimate relationships, with friends, maybe with family members. It's a pattern that goes through not just intimate relationships. You see it in all relationships. This person speaks to me this way. This person speaks to me that way. So it's not just with intimate relationships. Sometimes these folks allow themselves to be mistreated in all their relationships. And so that's what makes it hard to identify sometimes and then change that pattern.
So we have to understand that if a woman, let's just start with a woman per se, if a woman is being abused, or you see that your friend or lady is in an abusive relationship, it may not have started with that gentleman and that relationship. It may have started in a previous relationship, which probably was not even a boyfriend or girlfriend. It could have been, like you said, a friendly relationship or a family relationship or just some other form.
Right. It could have been mom and dad. It could have been a brother or sister. I have one person I'm working with now. Her sister, she's had a lot of trauma, but, very abusive home life. Her sister was very abusive towards her, and she's always trying to get her sister's approval. And consequently, all her relationships have been that way, because we do what we know. That's what she knows.
So they're also seeking approval a lot of times.
I can fix it if I'm going to prove that I am a good person. I'm going to prove to this person that I can be a good wife, mother, whatever the situation is. I'm going to prove to them, and this will change that behavior. And I was just talking to a young woman today. She's out of it, but the abuse from her child's father still kind of comes in a mental form. He's like, well, I don't have gas money to drop off our son, and if you don't drop him off, you're going to have to come and pick him up. She's afraid not to give him this money. Otherwise, he might try to pull this thing, and I don't want to be seen as a bad mother, because she's trying to make up for the mistakes of her past. He might try to use this against me. So he's still manipulating her in that way. And she had $3 in change. Well, this isn't enough. She said he didn't say thank you. And they're not together, haven't been together. But he's still trying and doing the manipulative, abusive behavior in that way. So it still can go on.
Wow. Sabrina, after hearing all of this, what's your thoughts on this? I know you deal with a lot of people because you help people with getting out of not only abusive relationships, but also sexual abusive relationships. And you also have a big cause and a work that you're doing with human trafficking to stop human trafficking with kids. What's your thoughts on what Tammy is saying about these abusers, and it's going from one part of their life to the next to the next?
And what everything she says is correct. Because, and I tell people when we do our trainings, victims of trafficking have the same symptoms as victims of domestic violence, which is why I put them all together. It's all about control. It's all about the manipulation. It's all about the isolation.
Wow.
So the operative word, the active word in everything that you all were talking about is relationship. So in everything, in order for a person to control you on that level, there has to be some level of a relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a personal relationship, whether it's a sisterhood bond. But the relationship, the operative word in that is the relationship. And that's how they're able to control you. And as she was talking about her patient, I could remember, even though I was sexually abused, which is abuse, yes. But I grew up in a home with a tumultuous relationship between my mom and her boyfriend. He was beating her almost literally daily, almost to death. And I remember at 15 telling my mom, putting ice on her, a rag with ice on her swollen eye and jaw. It's almost swollen shut.
Wow.
And I say to my mom, we got to get out of this. He's raping me and he's abusing you. He's going to kill you. We got to get out of this.
Wow.
My mom and she looks at me and she says, no, we can't. I'm like, what do you mean we can't? He needs me. He's been abused. He was a child. He was abused, and he was bullied, and and you just don't understand, Sabrina. You have to hear his story for you to understand him. And I'm looking at my mom like, what planet of manipulation has she dropped out of?
Right.
And I say to her, are you kidding me? Do I need to get a mirror, Mom, and put it in front of your face for you to see the level of abuse, and to see your face, your eyes is almost swollen shut? What do I have to do to show you in this moment what this looks like? This is not love.
Right.
I think, how can you heal him? She said this word. She said these words. I know my love can fix him. It can heal him, help him. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
And I looked at her and said, Mom, you can't even heal yourself. How can you heal this person? He's sick. We got to get out of this. My mom turned to me and she had the meanest look on her face. And she says, who in the belief do you think you're talking to? Don't you ever talk to me like that.
Wow.
So in my head, I'm like, okay, this will not be Sabrina on any level. No man will ever hit me. But I made that vow of the hitting part, right? But what I did not see coming, which threw me for a loop, was the manipulation, the mental, and the spiritual abuse.
Wow. I
didn't see that coming because I was so focused on the physical.
Right.
So I got caught up for 10 years in a abusive relationship, mentally and spiritually, that ripped me. My mom got it on all levels. And when I realized that, I'm like, what the Sam Hill willy-nilly? It is time. No, I got to get out of this. I'm my mother. What?
Wow.
And then it was up to me to say, I had to break that curse. I had to break that curse over me and my children. It stops with me.
And that was something amazing and powerful that you said, because that lined right up with what Tammy said. Was it'll start in other relationships, and then you'll see it probably in the one that you're, as far as boyfriend and girlfriend, but it stemmed from somewhere else. And it became what Tammy calls, basically, not her words, but basically it became a pattern. And now you said something amazing also, where you said it hit the spiritual side of you. I want Condalia to talk to us a little bit about her story and what your thoughts are on what we're discussing right now, so that she can get to be able to chime in. What's your thoughts, Condalia, about what's going on and this abuse?
I agree with Tammy and Sabrina wholeheartedly. I can say that mine started as a child.
Wow.
And it started with the spirit of rejection.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
too tall, I was too fat, I was,
Wow.
too, I could remember, and let me say this, I love my parents, but I dealt with some things from both parents. And rejection was the key point
Wow.
of both, whether from my mom it came through mental abuse. At the time my dad was using drugs. So, and he wasn't in our home, but the drugs altered his love for me.
Wow.
And so I really dealt with, I was that person that was a people pleaser.
Yep.
I'll do whatever it takes for acceptance. You can call me fat, you can call me, ugly. You can say, in my mother's case, I couldn't call her mother. I had to call her by her name. And I was introduced as her niece instead of her daughter. And so I just always felt not good enough, not
Right.
loved enough. And so I was always striving to be the best, striving to prove myself worthy of someone's love, even if I'm being locked in closets, because my mother also had a mental health issue. And her mind, when it would switch at times, she would become physically abusive.
Oh my God.
So,
Wow.
I've experienced, what it was to be locked in closets, gone without food, burned with cigarettes, tied up to a bed, beat with extension cords on our back, set in an alcohol tub of water. I remember having a perm put in my head, and the personality switched, and she took her fingernails and dug them in my scalp. I remember that as a child. And so, but the mother who really loved me would say, "But I love you."
Wow.
So my understanding of love was warped.
Yes.
Very, very warped.
Yes.
And so then I became the protectress of my sister, or the protectress of my mother. And so defects got involved and stuff, but I still protected her.
Wow.
And I was like, no, you have the wrong house, you have the wrong children.
Wow.
And I was very bright skinned then. So the teachers would see, some marks or bruises, and it was always, oh, I fell down the stairs, or I tripped over something, or I ran into something, and but the teachers kind of knew that it was, being fabricated.
Right.
And so it's just, and I grew up, like that. Even with my cousins, my aunts and everything, it was always trying to prove that I was worthy of their love.
Wow.
And so I just took a lot of whatever was handed to me. And so we were known as the black sheep of the family. It was known that we had to wear the hand-me-downs, or you always gonna have to assist them. We were always looked at the low totem pole. So for me, it made me put on a facade. I wore a beautiful mask. I smiled all the time, but was crying and dying on the inside.
I get that.
And so to the world, that's how I got the nickname Chi Chi, because I would cheese and smile all the time.
Yeah.
But I was a very sad person on the inside. And it eventually drove me to taking pills. Well, what drove me to that was I was about teenager, 13, 14. And my mom had switched personalities. And again, my dad was doing his thing in the streets, with whoever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't grow up with my father. I rarely saw him.
Mm-hmm.
And
so it drove you to the drug part.
Well, what it did was one night she woke me up out of my sleep with a knife to my neck and told me if I went back to sleep, I would die. So I literally set up and I would rock all night.
Mm-hmm.
Have to go to school in the day or whatever, which started me to popping pills to stay up, diet pills, upper pill stuff.
This is terrible.
I wind up taking Tylenol and all this stuff. And so eventually, not once, not twice, but 3 times, I tried to commit suicide. 3 times I've had my stomach pumped with black tar.
Now let's pause for a moment, because that's a lot to really take in, because we're knowing that people like Chi-Chi, well, I call her Chi-Chi, we all got Condolia, but I call her Chi-Chi. But what she's saying is the abuse started with her parents. And again, I keep going back to what Tammy said was it goes from one part to another. So if it started with your parents, where did it start with your parents? Did your parents have those issues as well? So we're seeing that this is a pattern. The domestic violence part, the mental abuse part, it's going from one person, basically, it looks like, to the next. That's what I'm seeing and I'm hearing. What do we do, and how can we help people who may be dealing with these things? We've told people in the few moments that we've been on what to identify for these, to know that these people are going through this. But Tammy and Sabrina and Condolia, what do we do to help? How do we help?
Both of them, Sabrina and Condolia both mentioned, when it comes to sex trafficking and feeling rejected and so on and so forth, we all as humans have basic human needs. And if you've ever heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it starts with, just the basic fundamental physical needs, water, food, and all of this. And then it gets up to, food, clothing. And right above that is love and belonging. Love and belonging. That's the third basic need that we have after food, water, clothing, and shelter is love and belonging. And when you're feeling rejected, you're going to go wherever you can to get that need met. That's why people can be susceptible to trafficking and to these things and to other abusive relationships, because they're looking somewhere where they feel accepted and wanted. And that's why people are susceptible to cults and things like that. They're telling them something they want to hear where they feel like they belong. And that's how folks can get tied up into these things. But if all you know is abuse, even though it might look different, she said, I was spiritually being abused and so on and so forth. It wasn't the same. It just had a different face. It was the same thing, different face. And so people just want to be accepted and belong, because there's that part of you in your head that says, well, what did I do to cause this? And the answer is nothing. But we always want to take responsibility for somebody else's behavior. And in the case of Sabrina's mother, she put his feelings and his things above her own. Mine don't matter. So I'm going to put them above theirs, because somehow we just don't matter. But I'm going to put this person's above mine, whether they are aware of it or not. That's what happens. Yes. And so that's self-esteem. When it's in the basement, it's hard to bring it up until you realize that's what's going on. Because I think I've said this to you before, Regina, if you don't love yourself, you can't give it away. You cannot give away something you do not possess.
That is true. That is true. And that's what Condolia was saying. She wanted to be loved. She was looking for that love. She was looking for it from her mother, even to the point that when DFACS came to her house, Condolia was still protecting her abuser, which was her mother, because she still wanted to have that love, little love that she can get from her mother. And I believe that, maybe Condolia, when you were young, you're thinking, if DFACS take my mom away from me, that's a part of that love and attachment to my mom that I don't want to let go of.
And there's also problems with guilt. If she takes her away, that's
there you
my
go.
fault.
That's my fault.
That's
Yeah.
my fault. I don't want to be the cause of mom being taken away. Even though it's not true, that's the thought process of a child.
Yes.
They're being taken away, or I'm being removed from the house. What did I do wrong?
Right.
You got all of that playing into
And
it.
then they're taking on that burden of responsibility that was
Exactly.
never there from the beginning. And also, a lot of our victims suffer with Stockholm syndrome. So there is this unhealthy relationship and this feeling of start feeling sorry for their abusers.
Okay.
And so I'm going to be with this person. Because however dysfunctional love is, for them, it's still love. So a lot of times what we say is when we rescue a victim, we're rescuing a victim out of an abnormal situation and reinserting them into a normal situation, which is abnormal for them.
Yes.
Oh,
And so
Right.
now
that's good.
our normal, which is their abnormal, which is now their normal,
Right.
is now trying to reintegrate them back into society and reintroduce them back into what normal looks like, because now their normal has been disfigured.
Exactly. And
turn all around until now it's acceptable. It's an acceptable norm.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it's scary to them.
Rescue is going to run in your arms and say, "Thank you for rescuing you. Oh, I love you." No. They're going to tell you there's nothing wrong. I am not a victim. How dare you? They're going to cuss you out. They're going to spit at you. They're going to fight. And they're going to go back out until something happens
To them.
to shake them
Mentally with
right.
them.
To say, wait a minute.
Yes.
This ain't healthy.
Yes.
This right here is all kind of twisted.
Yes.
Right.
Really, or until you get sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Right.
But you know what? I want to agree with Sabrina and then kind of throw a curveball in there.
Okay.
Because I heard her say reintegrate. The thing is, they're being integrated because they were never in a normal relationship or normalcy.
Okay.
They never knew.
No, right now, because we have had some that were in a normal, because not everybody that's trafficked comes from a household of them being abused. You just had some that were in a good family upbringing. They just were being children and wanted to do their own thing, got caught up. And
well, no, that's true. But there are a lot. There are many that from young started with just abnormalcy. So when they're brought into what is normal, it's hard to adapt because they now have to adapt their mind, their emotion, their body, their whole environment. And they don't know, to them, this is very uncomfortable because I don't recognize this. I don't understand this. And to me, it's like you're taking away who I've always been. And so it's about being transformed by the renewing of the mind. And so for me, I speak for me.
Yes.
I had to feel comfortable enough to trust someone.
And that's a hard thing to do.
And yes, to trust someone that they actually had my best interest at heart. That's why I love what you do, Sabrina, because they have to trust you enough to believe that you're there to help them so that they can change. Not that, what do you want from me too? Huh?
They had to trust us. It's not them just trusting us because they had to trust us with their truth.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Because they would say, I trust you, and they can trust you with a lie, and you're believing this, but when they can trust you with their truth, that's when the healing can begin.
Yeah.
And Condoleezza, oh my God, my heart is like with you right now. And now I understand your walk, right? And where you are. But I always say this, mental health, and we were talking about this earlier, Regina, about mental help for the mental is what we're talking. And I call it mental HELP.
Yes.
It is imperative. I don't care on how old you are. It's never too late for you to get help for your mental state.
Yes.
Please, you have to go to someone who can help you peel back those layers, knock down those walls, scrape down those, all of that muck and mess, and open you up so you can get back to, because you got to go back to the mental part was going back to the person that was hurt the first time.
That's right.
Now, here's the person that's in this ball right here that you got to break through and get through.
That is true.
Absolutely.
Now, what do we say to let's just look at the victim part again, okay? What do we say to the young person who's out there being abused? And like we say, we're witnessing this, we see this. And like, for instance, with the video that I saw, other people were saying, you should have did this or should have done that or should have done this or so forth or whatever. What are your professional suggestions or thoughts on when people witness someone who's in an abusive relationship and they're seeing the physical attack taking place? Who'd like to jump in on that one?
Well, you can, sometimes I see this happen in my office every once in a while, but we will either call the police. We will try to stop it. If we can. However, we can't control what happens after that. Right. I cannot control what happens with that. But by doing that, I think there's a door that opens that you don't have to put up with this. You don't have to do that. You have options. However, right, it can be options, but I'm not going to stand by and watch a woman get beat down. I just won't do that.
Love that.
Also, too, don't stand by and watch a woman get verbally abused either.
Right.
And I can say when I lived in Kansas, I thank God for my friend Cheryl. She intervened. She had been, I did not know. She had been watching my family, my ex-husband, myself. I have a son with autism and my daughter. I did not know that she was documenting things that she saw. And so she had a friend that was a psychologist. And she just told me, she said, I have a friend I want you to meet. Just out the blue. And I was like, okay, because she and I was friends. We did Girl Scouts with our girls. And when the lady walked in my home, she just came in. And this is why it is important to be spiritually sound. She came in my home and the Lord began to show her things. I didn't say a word. And she turned around and just looked at me. And I'll never forget, she said, God is taking the lid off the Pandora box of your life. She said, and the things that have been hidden, it's about to be revealed because there's a deep healing that must take place. Wow. I remember that to this day. And my children were little and they're grown now.
Wow.
And so at the time I was like, whoa, like, who is this lady? Not knowing how my life was about to transform. And I was in such a state of depression. I thank God for what Sabrina said about spiritual abuse, because there are people that will see a gift in you, will see the gift in you, and they'll push and they'll pimp that gift, but they don't take time to see if you're broken, if you need healing. Now they'll just keep pushing and pushing.
She's going to go into a whole nother topic.
The gift is operation. Well, and I'll never forget, I preached that Sunday.
I get that.
And came out from the pulpit and had a nervous breakdown.
Wow. Now we're going to have Condolia back, because I do want to do a whole hour topic on spiritual abuse. I really do. I need to do that because that's a major thing that's going on. And it is a lot of manipulation going on there. So
You are not lying.
yes.
I see it.
Let's talk a little bit with you. Let's talk a little bit about with you. What do you say to these young people? And mind you, let's do this. You're right, Holy Spirit. It's not just young women that are being abused.
Right.
It's also men who are being abused as well. So just because the panelists are all women doesn't mean that we side with automatically with the women. There are some men who go through mental abuse and domestic violence at the hands of the women.
Yes.
I'm actually seeing one right now.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
Mhm.
Let me get to Sabrina on her thoughts on what do you say to someone who's being abused, whether it's a male or a female. And then I'm going to go back to Tammy and talk about the one that you're dealing with right now.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because you took the words out of my mouth. It's not just the women.
Yeah.
It is it's the men as well. We probably have more men that are being abused that is being reported
Mhm.
because they think, oh, you're a man, you're stronger, you should be able. But let me tell you something. When you are spiritually broken, right? It's easy to manipulate and beat up the mental.
That's right.
When your spirit is torn down, ripped to shreds, and there are times you can't even pray.
Yes.
It's easy for your mental to be beat all the way down.
Yeah.
And once you are spiritually broken, you can be manipulated, you can be abused, and you can be misused and mistreated.
Absolutely.
And there's a form of manipulation with that. Abuse is about manipulation. If you're able to get somebody to do something that they wouldn't normally do healthily, that's a form of manipulation, control. Right. And then isolation comes with that as well. Yes. But I want to say this, and this is important. Remember, when you're working with someone or you identify someone that is being abused and you want to help.
Yes.
Make sure they want the help.
Right.
Because you could spend so much time on a person that you're trying to save because what's in us wants to save this person. We see that it's toxic. We see that they need help and we want to help them so much. Right. And there's this constant pushback. You're spending so much time and energy with this person and it's wearing you out.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
But then you have 10 other people over here that saying, hey, help me. I want help.
But they look like they're fine.
You can't help them because you're so focused on saving this one that you know that is drowning. But let me tell you something about a drowning person. If you, knowing how to swim, go out to help a flailing, drowning person, you will die.
You will die.
They will take you down with them.
Absolutely.
They will drown you trying to save themselves.
Yes.
That's a great analogy.
You have to make sure that you have to make sure that they can hear you. Hey, if you want me to save you, you gotta calm down, stop flailing around, or you're gonna kill us both. Right?
Yes.
Or you can have a person that's drowning and you throw them a life preserver and they push it to the side and they're still flailing. So I would say this, you have to save those that want to be saved first. And I'm saying that from experience.
Yes.
Secondly, when you get to the first thing we have to do when you get to that person, one that wants to be saved, they will share their truth with you. They're not, it's not going to be instant because they got to trust you first.
Right.
But once that trust is established, they will share their truth with you. And then thirdly, it's most important that you get them mental help.
Yes.
You have to start building them back up spiritually and mentally first before you can help them get all the other stuff in, not because now they're in an erratic state. if you pour on a person that is not in a mentally good place, and you start giving them all of this stuff, guess what? It's going to be for naught.
Yeah, they get overwhelmed.
They're not in the place where they need to be on a mental level to handle it.
Right.
Prime example, remember the young man, the gentleman with the golden voice that they found on the street, that he was a homeless guy? He blew up because, like Condoleezza said, they pimped his gift, right?
Yes.
And they saw money, but they did not address his problem.
Yes.
Right.
So what happened was, you gave him all of this fame, and then you gave him money to help him further feed his problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then he wound up back where he was in the beginning.
Right.
So you got to help the mental first.
And I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, Sabrina. And I'm going to shift it over to Tammy, because Tammy and I had a conversation, and we're going to have Tammy back on the show again also, because we had a conversation about where to seek the mental help that you need, because everyone is not equipped to be able to help you with that mental part. Everyone may want to help, but may not have the professional ability to help. So Tammy, I'm going to shift it over to you and have this conversation. When, like Sabrina said, get the mental help that you need, what do you recommend, or where do you recommend people do? What's the steps they should take?
Well, any hospital, you can go into any hospital and you can get started there. I had this conversation with my group this morning. We were talking about resources. There are so many resources out there. Some might have to work harder than others to get them, but they are there. Insurance may be a factor for some. I mean, we do know that Black people are a little more at a disadvantage in some areas with insurance. I mean, we have to talk about race as a factor in that.
Absolutely.
It is a factor in that. But there's so many hotlines out there. I mean, if you have access to the internet, SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration, is a plethora of information about mental health and substance use disorders and everything. And it varies on different states and everything. We have a 1-800-18444 mental health number here that you can get access to any treatment facility in the state here.
Nice.
And they're pretty successful in getting anybody any type of treatment in the state, and some in the surrounding states as well. So it depends on what state you're in, what resources you have available to you.
Now, Tammy and I had a conversation, and I'll shift it over to Condoleezza. Tammy and I had a conversation, and we're going to bring this topic on the show also. Listen, here at the Juice Radio and Talk Show, we're about to explode with so many informative, necessary topics on this show. So if you have not subscribed already, you want to hit that subscribe button, hit that share button, like button, whatever you need to do. Make sure you hit that notification button, so when we do go live, you get the information and you'll be able to come on here and get this informative information, if I should say. But Tammy and I had a conversation, and we're going back to the spiritual side. Then I'm going to shift it over to Condoleezza. But we talked about people who, like Tammy said, in the Black community, we may not have the finances for the insurance. So a lot of times what we end up doing is we go to the pastor, and we try to get the pastor to do the counseling for us. And Tammy and I were both discussing that. And I have to say, from a personal point, and Tammy can voice her opinion if she like, I don't always agree with going to the pastor for certain mental aspects, because the pastor may not be equipped to deal with it. So Condoleezza, tell me your thoughts on people wanting to go to these pastors, and have you dealt with stuff like that?
Yes, and I totally agree with you. First, as a pastor, this is why you must pray and hear from the Holy Spirit, get guidance from the Lord, because there are some things that people will open up to you about, and if you're not mentally or spiritually sound, it can unlock some things in you, and instead of you bringing healing to that person, you can start spewing out things onto that person, and then they become in a worse state than they originally came. So that's the thing. Yes, as a pastor, we're a shepherd, to shepherd the flock and stuff like that.
I love that.
But it doesn't mean that we're supposed to counsel them in every area. You see, this is why God gave therapists. Thank God for them.
Yeah.
Or he gave, other outlets or
Mm-hmm.
counsels for, to help us, the total man.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to go back, kind of piggyback on something I think Sabrina said or Tammy.
Mm-hmm.
But I was Sabrina. So far as helping a person that want to be helped.
Yes.
I totally agree. My friend, God let her use wisdom for me.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I didn't think I needed help, but I did.
Mm-hmm.
And she knew, and she was led by Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
However, there came a time when a decision had to be made.
Mm-hmm.
And the lady that came on board, they also got in my spiritual mother, who they knew I loved and valued her opinion, and valued her and my friend. And they came to my house that day. And that's when the lady switched. And she told me that she was not only a counselor, but she worked for defects. And she had been taking notes on my family. I became angry. I mean, enraged angry. But she said, good, that's what I need you to do.
Wow.
Because and this was her words, I need you to fight to get out of hell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She said, I'm giving you 15 minutes.
Wow.
If you don't decide to leave, people are going to come in and take your children.
Ooh.
And something rose up in me, like the roar of the lion. That mama protectiveness came up in me for my children.
Yes.
And she said, yes, that's what I need you to do. And her words was, it's time to get the hell out of here.
Woo!
And my spiritual mama was there, and my friend, and they were looking at me, and I didn't know they had already called my sister, my grandfather, the church, my aunts. Everybody was on standby. I didn't know. They did all this behind the scenes. And she was like, you down to 10 minutes.
Wow.
And my spiritual mom looked at me. She said, please go, please, this is not healthy for you all. And as angry as I was, something on the inside of me, which goes back to what Sabrina said, was like, you need this. Leave now. Because if you don't leave, you're going to die.
Wow.
And so I grabbed my kids and I grabbed some clothes and I went out the door. I went out the door with them. And they took me to the church. The church was praying for me. They put money in my hands up and my sister whisked me away, to where my family was. And my family prayed over me. They loved on me. I got a job. I was moving, but I was in survival mode, not healing mode. You see the difference? I was in survival mode, not healing mode.
Yep.
So I didn't have a chance to get counseling about everything I had been through, what I was feeling. Because now I had to leave, and now I have my 2 kids, and I got to make it. I got to survive. So I got to put me on the back burner because my babies are on the forefront. So I'm working, I'm surviving, I'm working, I'm surviving. But yet on the inside, I'm still bleeding.
Broken. Yeah.
Still broken. Because I'm in survivor mode and not healing mode. And this is why I say for the last 10 years now, I've been on a healing journey.
Still. It takes time.
Still on a healing journey. Because there are things that it can be a movie on the TV. And it will trigger something. And I will start having these ray of emotions And I was like, where is this coming from? And it's like the Lord will bring it. I will immediately like see it and say, I need healing from this, God. I didn't get healing from this.
And you have to find a way to get that.
From this. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like I survived. I went through survival mode.
But you're
I
still
got
in the healing
remarried.
process.
And so, but I never healed
From that.
from those things. You see?
What would you all say to someone who may be watching the show today, who may be in an abusive relationship, whether it be physical or whether it be mental? And before you answer that, I want to say this. A lot of you who are in an abusive relationship, mental abuse or physical abuse, first of all, you know you're already in that. Because a lot of people may say, well, they didn't know. Listen, I went through abuse in one of my relationships as well. I knew what it was. Mine was done behind closed doors, never done in the public. And I think that's part of the reason why I allowed it to go so long, because I thought that once the doors opened, that it was better and that I could just tolerate it behind doors.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have that self-worth of myself to just, expose, hey, he's doing this to me. And then I also went into, like a lot of you have said today, the protective part of, I still want to protect him in a sense. I don't want to embarrass him. But what would you say to some of these people who are out here? And again, I said all that to say this. I knew what I was in. I knew it. I recognized what it was. I knew exactly what it was. But I was just in that and didn't know how to really get out. And nobody knew what I was going through until after I got myself out, because it was all hidden. What would you say to someone who is watching this right now, who know that they're in this type of relationship, whether it's the mental abuse part or the physical abuse part? What would you ladies have to say to them, whether it be a man who's going through it or a woman who's going through it, a person? I start with you, Condoleezza. What would you say?
I would say get help. Be true to yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
Stop lying to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Stop telling yourself, oh, I can fix him, I can fix her. It's gonna get better. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
You can't fix them.
Mm-hmm.
But you can get help for yourself.
Fix yourself.
But you first have to admit that you need help.
Amen.
And then as Sabrina stated, that you want help. And then you have to trust someone to help you.
I love that. Sabrina, with these next few minutes that we have before we end the show, what's your comment on that? What would you say to someone who is in an abusive relationship? And also, thank you, Holy Spirit, what would you say to someone who is the abuser? Let's start with
Condoleezza said get help.
Yes.
And help can come in many forms.
Mm-hmm.
You first have to admit, one, that you have a problem. And so I've had people say, well, how do I know that I'm in an unhealthy relationship? Because you're hiding it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A healthy relationship, you want the whole world to know.
That's right.
And you share it and they can see it all over you.
Yes.
An unhealthy relationship is when you're hiding it. You're hiding the bruises, you're hiding the hurt. And in the open, you're putting on this fake smile and you're dreading the door closing because you know hell is following with it.
Right.
With that click, hell is going to follow that click.
Mm-hmm.
That's unhealthy.
Yes.
So how do I get out?
Right.
There are numbers you can call. There are shelters that you can go to. As soon as you make that call and say, I need help because I'm being abused, get out before it's too late. Because, baby, let me tell you, if a man or a woman tell you they love you to death, please
believe them. Yes.
Please believe them.
That's powerful right there. Powerful. And Sabrina also does counseling, and she does sessions with people if they want to learn information regarding these topics. She has a great program that she has established. You want to go on her website. It's My Name Is Me. You go to her website. It's mynameisme.com.
Yes, ma'am. But I want to say this because I am not a licensed counselor.
Right.
But I do have Miss Nadine Ali, who has a Rolodex full of them.
That's right.
I speak on what I've been through, what I've been teaching on.
Yes.
But I need for people to go to those that are educated in it and know how to,
the professional part.
to get those, to recognize those signs and peel back those levels. We have a whole bunch of folk out here that are counseling, and they're causing harm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We wouldn't send a person with a heart that needs a heart transplant to a basic medical doctor.
Right.
Let the professionals do what they've been trained to do.
Absolutely. 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 And Tammy is a licensed counselor. And Sabrina, I call her my advocate. She's our community advocate. Tammy, your thoughts on this? What do you say to someone who may be watching this program right now who is dealing with the abuse? What would you say to that person?
There is hope. Don't allow the guilt and shame that comes with the territory that keeps people from seeking help. Guilt and shame is a powerful weapon that keeps people from getting help. Don't allow the guilt and shame to keep you from getting the help that is out there, and you can get to keep you from getting well and getting out from what can potentially be a dangerous situation. And just go forward. It's just guilt and shame can really be a harmful thing. And I think that's what, when you were tagging on to what you said, when you said, I knew what was going on, I knew what it was. And a lot of people do, but guilt and shame keeps people from coming forward.
It does. It does.
Embarrassment.
Yeah, that's what that shame is about. That shame keeps people stuck. It really keeps people stuck.
Yes,
it does.
And I would like to say something. I'm grateful that my friend was documenting things. And the reason why she was able to, because she had been through an abusive relationship. So things that people took as little playthings, like he used to walk up to me and pull my nose. They thought, like, if we had company, they thought, oh, that's a cute little thing they have between them. But she knew that it was a way of putting me in my place.
Wow.
Or getting me back in line. You know what I'm saying?
That's how they do a dog. Tap them on the nose, get their attention.
Or, walking up behind me, walking up on me and whispering in my ear. Most people would say, oh, they got such a tight, close relationship. But she knew that he was saying something to me that was abusive or controlling because she watched my mannerism and how I reacted to him walking up on me. You see, so she was documenting like everything. She even documented how the children responded around him or to his presence, how especially my son would jump when he came into the room or something. She documented everything.
Wow.
So that if you see something, say something. I'm a firm believer in that. You don't always have to say it verbally. Write it down.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Ladies,
Regina, just one more thing. When it comes to talking about the men who are abused, shame really keeps them from reporting. Shame really keeps them from coming out and saying anything, because it's not the manly thing for them to be abused by a female or something like that. So that will really stop that's why I think when Sabrina said it's underreported how many men are actually being abused.
And you know what? We do need to have the conversation. I'm going to see if I can find a male panelist to come on and speak from the male perspective of this, because it is a topic that not many people are talking about. And a lot of times what is happening is we'll see an abuse take place, we'll see a fight take place, and we automatically assume that it is the male part that is doing all of this, or triggering or starting all of this, when there are some times, some occasions where it is the female that has really been the one that is the aggressor.
Yes.
And so we need to have more of these conversations and topics about all of this. Ladies, I really would keep y'all all day, because I'm just sitting here just getting earfuls and getting so much information. And I really do want to continue to stay and help, but we can do this again. I've taken up an hour of your time already. It has really gone by really quick. I really want you guys to be back on the show again, the program again. My Uncle Charles keeps saying it's not a show, it's a program. And he's absolutely right. I want to have you ladies back again. I thank you for your knowledge. I thank you for sharing your experiences. And I want to have us back on again, because Sabrina and I, we know we can go 4 or 5 hours. Look, 4, not even 4, 4 or 5 hours talking about these topics. Sabrina, I would like for you to just close us out, just briefing us on the article that you sent to me today. Can you just brief me on that as we do the closeout?
Oh, absolutely. So, you and I had the conversation about seeing what we thought was, what we know was abuse. We knew that. And this person that it was screaming, saying, you see what's happening. And she was the aggressor, although it was an abusive situation. So in that situation, I would think that both of them were. Then we had a situation, an event that happened last year, where an influencer, a minister, she was a business owner. She was opening up her second business, her and her husband, that moved down here to Atlanta. And she got on the social media, she got on that platform, and this lady was screaming, saying, help me. But it was in silence. She was screaming so loud that we could not hear her, because her message was, hey, you all, I'm always pouring into somebody. I need you to now pour into me. Hey, I need prayer. Hey, I need help.
Yes.
And not any emojis. That's what I saw. She didn't need any prayer hands on her emojis.
Not one. But she was screaming so loud.
Yes, Tammy.
But as I watched her, I was seeing all of the signs of suicide. I saw them as I'm watching. And when I saw it the first time, I was like, oh my God, this lady's going to kill herself. She's literally saying goodbye, basically. But she was saying it in a way, hey, I'm going to be praying for you like you all pray for me. Hey, I'm reaching out to you now because I need love. That was the key. I need love.
Right.
I need your prayers.
You can see it in her affect.
Yes. And she can tell she was holding back tears. The following day, her oldest daughter, called the police to say that there was domestic violence in the house. These are leaders, pastors, business owners, affluent people. When the police got there, they heard 2 gunshots. When they got inside, she had killed her husband and herself and left 8 children behind.
Wow.
Literally two instances where you have clearly abuse is going on.
Right.
But one was screaming loud and was the aggressor, and the other was screaming in silence. So domestic violence is not always noisy, people.
That's right.
And it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care, your status of life.
Yes.
It doesn't. Abuse is abuse.
Yes.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Yes.
Ladies, thank you so much for being on this program today. Listen, I wrote a whole bunch of notes. I didn't get to all my notes. So I'm going to have to please have you all back on again, because we really want to be able to talk to some of the millennials today, the millennials in this world today that are going through some stuff where they're having a tough time and having mental breakdowns over some what we would call simplest of things, but to them they are great things.
Yes.
And so I want to have you back on again because this mental abuse and mental health awareness is necessary to have these conversations.
Right.
Tammy informed me that May is actual mental health awareness month,
Yes.
which I was not aware, but thank you for making me aware of that. We're going to add this to our calendar for the Juice Radio and Talk Show that during the month of May and other months as well, but especially really going hard in the month of May for these years to come regarding mental health. We're going to start getting more information and getting more information out to you that can help you. Until our next show, we're going to be back again. We're going to have more of this fantastic program. And I'm praying that this helps somebody out there. If you know someone who's suffering from mental abuse or who's in a domestic violent relationship, please share this video with them. But not only just share this video, I want you to share their information and their story with someone of a professional status that can help them to get the help that they need. Like Sabrina said, they may all be screaming, but they may be screaming in silence. And it's about time that some of us turn up our listening ears so that we can hear those screams for help. All right. Thank you, ladies, for being on here again. I appreciate y'all so very much. Thank you again, my beautiful cousin Tammy, who is the most brilliant person you're ever going to meet. Thank you so much, Condolia, for being here in studio with me.
Yes, I love you, cousin. Yes.
I love you too. And thank you so much, Sabrina, for all that you are doing in the community and also sharing your personal life with us, not to bring shame to you, but to bring help to someone else.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I love you all. We're going to say goodbye on 3. If y'all are ready, 1, 2, 3.
Bye.
Bye.